everyone, it's Alexa again and welcome back to another episode of RE News. Now today we're going to be talking about the Singapore rental market. Unless you have been living under a rock, you definitely must have come across news articles about how the rental market is heating up right now. So with the rental market on a streak, the question on everyone's mind is, are high prices here to stay? Keep watching to find out more. So great news for our landlords. The rise of rental prices in Singapore has been on a streak. Now HDB rents are on a 2-year rising streak since the pandemic started, and condo rents are on a 1.5-year rising streak. The unbelievably heated rental market is accompanied by rising housing prices as well. And in just the first half of 2022, the rental price growth has already reached 8.5%, which ties with New York for the highest rental growth among 30 cities. Now, are these high prices sustainable? Are they temporary or here to stay? Of course, the worries of an exploding cost of living is not unfounded. Inflation is hitting Singapore's housing market hard, and while most households might not feel it just yet, the next step of the property journey, people will start to question why the price of new homes are so expensive. Now, in this episode today, we will be exploring some of the possible reasons why the rental market in Singapore has been on a streak and speculate on where it might be headed. We will also look at the pros and cons of rising rents and compare it with the situation in other cities. So firstly, let's take a look at why rental prices are rising. Now, price is a reflection of demand and supply mechanics in the market, and price rises typically because of an increase in demand or a reduction in supply. Now, for the rental market in Singapore, the current hike in rentals is most likely due to a boost in the rental demand, coupled with a supply delay in the provision of new HDB flats and residential developments. The steep rise in prices for rentals might be due to a host of different factors as well. The pandemic wreaked havoc on global supply chains and brought a labour shortage to many sectors. Construction of residential projects, both public and private, were also delayed. In addition, the work-from-home trends pushed people to look for larger living spaces. However, specific to the rental market, it is often the case of poor timeline planning or certain circumstances that push people to find a rental solution. Now, usually this is due to sellers having sold their homes but are unable to prepare a new place in time. Now, either the renovation is incomplete or they just couldn't find a suitable new place at a reasonable price. Now, most of the steep rise in the rental market was seen in the past 24 months, so it is not difficult to see that the pandemic indeed had a large impact on the rental market. Now, prior to 2020, the rental market was largely declining from the end of 2013 into 2017, with prices starting to stabilize from 2018 onwards. Now, this is largely due to a large spike in government land sales for residential purposes in the OCR region from 2010 to 2012. Now, after these residential developments were completed and hit the market, we could see rental prices then start to decline. Now, this period also coincided with the cooling measures put into place from 2009 to 2014. Now, looking at the past 4 quarters, while rental prices have made a parabolic move upwards, the volume of transactions have been shrinking. While looking at the seasonality of the data, Q3 tends to be the one with the highest volume of transactions in each year, as volume usually builds up and reaches a peak in Q3. Now, in 2022, volume has actually been declining since Q3 of 2021. Now, simultaneously, the rental prices made a new high of $3.21 in Q2, taking out the previous high of $3.16 in Q4 of 2013. If prices continue to rise as volume consistently shrinks, we might be seeing an unsustainable price level in the market. Less individuals will accept a high rental price, and more landlords would be inclined to lower prices lest they leave the property untenanted. Now, the next few quarters will actually tell us if the rental market is building up a bubble or not. Now, while the aggregate rental prices suggest a potential bubble formation, HDB rentals have an increasing transaction volume with prices. Now, this is a much healthier uptrend. Similar to the aggregate price levels, HDB rental prices have recently made a new high with its 24-month parabolic move up. Now, given the current macro conditions in the property market, it would seem that HDB renters have a higher chance of remaining at elevated levels. But the charts alone do not seem to suggest a decline in rental prices anytime soon. Now, a forward indicator that rental prices will drop in the future would be if the government increases land sales for residential purposes in the following years. Alternatively, if the construction delays and backlogs for BTO flats are rectified, rental prices might finally start to come down once again. Now, looking at this chart, the condominium and apartment makes up the largest rental market in Singapore by the volume of transactions. Now, it has a much higher chance of price decline than HDB rentals if the volume continues to shrink. Now, higher prices might not be able to find sufficient willing renters. If prices continue to increase, renters might just go to find more affordable rental options in the HDB rental market, which will then in turn push the prices there up higher instead. Now, interestingly, the rental market for landed properties, on the other hand, is quite unique. It has not yet hit the previous high made in 2013, unlike the HDB and the condo rental markets. Now, this might just suggest that the landed property rentals might have a higher upside than the other two markets. So why are rental prices rising? And will it continue to rise? We might not have a crystal ball that can predict the future, but the charts do have a story to tell. Rental prices have risen possibly due to a surge in demand from people who want their own place. BTO delays, work from home, health and safety reasons. These are all stories that fit the bill when it comes to rental prices going up. Now, as to whether prices will continue to rise, most probably in the short term. Inflation is a hot topic at the moment, and the cost of rental is no exception. Between the different rental segments, condo rentals are the ones to watch to see if a bubble is forming in the rental market. Otherwise, HDB and landed rentals seem to still have potential to keep rising in the short run. So in this crazy market, are there any benefits at all to having a high rental market? So of course, if you're on the tenant side, I'm sure you'll be going, since when are high prices ever a good thing? Are there any real benefits to high rental prices? Well, give me a moment to explain this. Now, as we mentioned earlier, Singapore's residential properties have been climbing up in price in tandem with rental prices. Now, in order to support the rising home prices, rental prices should continue to rise also. Now, apart from the obvious high rental benefits for the landlord, a high rental price is needed to substantiate a sustainable rise in home prices. Otherwise, it might be a signal that a bubble is forming in the housing market. And we have a previous article on our Insights page exploring whether that is happening as we speak. Now, basically, incomes and rentals need to rise together with housing prices in a healthy market. If either income or rental falls behind, it suggests a sort of sickness in the market. Now, either houses are being bought too speculatively, or the rest of the economy is not able to support the move up in housing prices. Now, either way, it is quite likely that elevated rental prices might be here to stay in the medium term. Now, as rental prices started to fall from 2014 to 2017, the property prices were mostly consolidating and remaining stagnant. Now, since then, property prices have risen substantially, so rental prices were actually just playing catch-up to property prices over the past 2 years. Now, on a big picture level, that is a more preferable outcome than if rentals were to remain low. So is the increase in rent in Singapore reasonable compared to other cities? Now, looking at how fast rent and property prices have risen are a shock to most people. But one segment is particularly faced. Expats in Singapore are facing dizzying rent hikes from 40% to over 100% rent hikes that are on the table for properties in prime areas. Now, based on the interviews conducted by Bloomberg, it seems that most of the expatriates in Singapore do not accept the greedy asking prices by some landlords. Now, while prices are definitely on the rise, are the exorbitant asking prices by some landlords reasonable? Now, the rental market for prime houses is definitely hot. Now, just look at the rental growth of Sentosa Cove bungalows, where it is approximately double of the aggregate growth rate of non-landed private rentals at 16%. However, what we do need to keep in mind is that Sentosa Cove is a very small slice of the rental market. Now, even the luxury condo segment in D9, 10, 11 in the central area has a comparable rental growth rate as compared to other districts in Singapore. Interestingly, other districts have surpassed their previous high in 2013, but D9, 10, 11 for the private condominiums and apartments, they have not made a new high yet in rental price. Now, the following months might still see the luxury property market slowly digesting higher rental prices. While 40 to 100% increase is definitely not the norm, it is very likely that a large amount of rental contracts will be renewed in the coming quarter. Now, this seasonal renewal will be a big hint as to whether the market will continue to let prices spiral upwards. Now, among 30 other cities surveyed by Savills, Singapore tops the charts as the one with the fastest growing rents at 8.5% in the first half of 2022. Now, this is ahead of London, San Francisco, Tokyo, and Paris. Hong Kong places last with negative growth in its rental prices. Now, from the chart that we're showing right now, we can see that Singapore's rental market is experiencing higher than average inflation. While this might be due to persistent local supply issues in the housing market, a solution would eventually be needed. Since supply issues can only be solved in the course of the coming years, a more immediate solution might be needed in the rental market. While the Singapore government might be adverse to price controls in the rental market and would probably not be willing to curb foreign talents from coming in, it will likely step in on any rental scams looking to take advantage of the situation in the heated market. So whether this rental increase is reasonable or not is another question. Look, we all know that Singapore is a great place to do business in. It attracts business owners from all over the world to set up shop here. It's generally a safe city that is relatively sheltered from natural disasters and geopolitical instability. We are also clean and green with great transport infrastructure. Now, while it is hard to compare what is reasonable across so many different cities, Singapore is undoubtedly an expat favourite in Asia. It is not particularly surprising to see it top the chart in 2022. With so many black swans lurking about in 2022, many global citizens might choose to live in a safe haven like Singapore. So some closing thoughts. Now, Singapore's rental market is on a streak and might continue to rise in the micro term. But despite it continuing to make headlines, I think what is more important for real estate investors to pay attention to is the health of the rental market for condominiums and apartments. Now, shrinking volume and collapsing rental prices may have larger implications for the rest of the market and indicate where the market may go for the next few quarters. That's all for our episode today. Now, if you wish to find out more about how the rental market might affect you in today's turbulent market, do feel free to contact us at the PropertyLimBrothers team. I'm Alexa and see you on the next episode of RE News.